Good morning, everybody. Fourth time's the charm. I don't think that's the saying, but we're hoping it is today, because this is my fourth time trying to make this video this morning. Something has happened in the middle of every attempt, and it just hasn't gone through. And the last one I pushed through, it ended up being 16 minutes with a bunch of stuff, a truck coming through, and like a person and their dog barking at me. So I just decided I'm gonna try and do one more, because 16 minutes seems a little long for a video. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to get your dog over things like a thunderstorm or fireworks, and I'll give you details on basically how to get your dog over anything that they're fearful of. But first I wanted to share a little bit. I wanted to get a little bit off my chest. Sometimes these videos I feel like are almost therapy for me. Like I'm talking to you, the future audience that's going to see this video once I post it. But sometimes I'm just talking about, I don't know, I'm just getting stuff off my head during the walk. This is like what I'd be thinking about if I wasn't talking to the camera today, right? And I want to talk about, first of all, a couple things that have been happening in my business. The weather this year. So February, there were so many ultra cold days and so many snowstorms or snow events that I ended up rescheduling almost 60% of all my appointments. More than half of my appointments in February had to get canceled and rescheduled due to the weather. It was so bad this year that I've decided February 2022, our next year, I'm not even open. I'm going to close for the entire month because this year, February, ended up ruining March. As you can imagine, where do all those canceled appointments in February go? Into March. Then I have to start shifting clients in March or moving things around, and it just becomes an enormous headache that's not worth it. So I didn't actually really earn any money in February, and then I screwed up March so bad rescheduling that it's not even worth it. There's no point. So I'm just not going to open February this year. Now we're into the summer, and these hot days are getting more and more frequent. They're getting hotter and hotter. When I was a kid, the rule used to be, you wear sunscreen or you watch yourself from 10 till 2 p.m., the hottest part of the day. Has anybody else noticed that now the hottest part of the day is actually 2 until 6? And my lessons are booked basically from 1 until 9 every day, through the week. So my lessons are scheduled dead smack in the middle of the hottest period of the day. And I was watching the news the other day, and they said from 1976 to 1996, roughly, this 20-year period, our area in the Niagara region had roughly 11 what they call heat events in the summer, 11 super hot days where they have to warn you. They're saying in the next 20 years that's going to increase. It's already doubled, almost tripled, and they're saying it's going to do that again, and by 2040, 2050, we'll see around 90 of these days a year. That's 3 months of just straight face-melting heat. I mean, when I hear something like that, my first thought is, what does that mean for my business? What does that mean for caring for my dogs? If you have 3 months where you're in a severe heat wave, what are we doing with our dogs during that time? I guess we do what we're doing now. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm out the door at 6 with the dogs to make sure I can walk them before all of this heat comes in. So now, on top of that, along with heat events, just like in the winter with super cold days, comes the threat of storms, only now they're thunderstorms, which is what led me to thinking about how to help you over your dog's fear of thunder if they have that, because we're going to deal with a lot more thunder because of all these heat days, and as soon as you have this kind of level of humidity and heat, you're in the risk of a thunderstorm, and basically the forecast every day just says thunderstorms. So not only the heat can lead to cancellations through the summer, because I have had to cancel a few appointments because it's just simply too hot to have the dogs out for an hour, even if we hide in the shade. But then all day long I'm watching the weather radar because there's the threat of thunderstorms coming in. So I've got that on my plate. Also this year became completely overwhelming with new client requests, and continues to be, to the point where I had said a few weeks ago I've stopped taking clients for a little while because I need to catch up. I was booking so far ahead that my fear was, as these appointments start coming up, people will have found another trainer or will have worked through some problems on their own and then just decide they don't need the appointment anymore because we booked it too far into the future. Lo and behold, that's what's happening now. So today, I had 2 clients cancel. I sent them appointment reminders on the weekend, and then they just got back to me, and both of them had said a variation of, hey, things are just going great now with our puppy. We don't need the obedience training. Like one lady just said, look, we managed to work through the leash issues, and the leash walking is manageable now, so we're going to forego our lessons. And another client said, sorry, I'd reached out to another trainer and made appointments and just forgot to tell you. Okay, I mean, I'm not mad at these people. I'd be doing the same thing. If I had reached out to a trainer and they weren't available, I'd be going behind the scenes to see if somebody else is available sooner. So I'm not mad. I would do the same thing, people. But what I wouldn't do is book another trainer and then just forget to just tell the previous trainer. Because here's the problem. You may be thinking to yourself, if you're so busy, Ryan, just fill those appointments. It's not that easy. So this client, today's Tuesday, one of the clients is supposed to start today at 1:30 p.m. I get notified last night. I can't fill today's spot in time. And she booked a 6-lesson course, which is my typical course, which means if we miss today, if I don't get someone filling that appointment time slot today, I now only have 5 time slots available because I have another client that starts in 6 weeks. So once we miss one of those appointment dates, basically the rest of those dates become unusable because I don't have enough time slots to complete a course with the client. So then what? I'm going to book them for like 3 weeks in a row at one date and then start patchworking them in. And I've done that in the past. Sometimes it works if you have a client that's super flexible. But what I'm saying is if you cancel on me last minute, it basically just means I lose that package, I lose the use of that time slot, and I lose that money. And it just is what it is. And I can hardly complain because I've more or less been fairly unfazed by COVID-19 and the pandemic. And in fact, I've been fairly busy because of it all, so that's been great. But it does affect my business when people cancel last minute. And it's exactly what I predicted when you're booking 2 to 3 months in advance, which is why I put a halt to that, and I'm only booking 6 weeks out. Once I'm booked, I wait a couple weeks and then book more clients. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so now that we've talked about some of the struggles that I face as a dog trainer that you may not have thought about, right? I don't think a lot of people think about the weather as such a huge factor in a business, but it is in my business for sure. So let's get on to what I promised you, how to get your dog over their fears. Now, how well this is going to work, I don't know. Experiment with your dog and see. A good friend and colleague dog trainer once said to me, dog training is simply an ongoing experiment in what works. And I would say that's a super good way to describe it. It is. If you're a good dog trainer, you're taking what works and you're always experimenting to try and make those techniques better. And that's all I'm doing. So this is something I came up with because the basics of desensitizing a dog, probably even desensitizing a human to something they're fearful of, is, I guess, what people would refer to as exposure therapy. So I want to expose my dog to something they're fearful of, but at a much less intense version of that. And then over time, I can increase the intensity. And as my dog acclimatizes to the new level of intensity, in theory, the next time I expose them to that, it can be a little bit more intense until I get to the, normal intensity of that thing, and they can handle it. So that's the plan. So, let's say your dog's afraid of traffic. I'm on a nice quiet street now. I could walk up closer to a busy street and stop my dog 20 meters from the street today, let them hang out there for a few minutes, get used to the traffic, and then walk them away. Then tomorrow, should be able to get 9 meters to the traffic, in theory, right? The next day, 8 meters, until I can walk right up and sit beside the busy road, and my dog's okay with the buses and the buses and the trucks going by, right? Hopefully there's no trains on the road. And through that process, I can desensitize my dog and get them used to a busy road, and then once they can handle that, I walk them 1 block on a busy road and take them off, and so on and so forth, right? When it comes to a thunderstorm, what do? Pack our dog in the car and drive 1 kilometer away from the thunderstorm? And part of what you need is daily exposure. You need this continuous exposure so they're getting used to it. You can't just expose them once a month when the thunderstorm comes. That's not going to work. So here's what I've recommended, and some of my clients that have tried this said that it got some success with their dogs. So, like I said, experiment on your own. So for thunder and fireworks, these are two things that are sort of erratic in when they happen, so it's hard to get that daily exposure. And how do you tone down a thunderstorm other than going further away from it? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go on to YouTube, and we're going to find ourselves a recording of a thunderstorm or a recording of fireworks, right? We're going to get a recording of one of these things that our dog is fearful of. Now, is the recording the same? No, it's not. Like, there's atmospheric pressure changes that happen when a thunderstorm is going to happen. And all of these things will be something that your dog will probably sense, that we sense too in a way. So we can't recreate that, but we can recreate at least the sound of this. Heel. And hopefully you got a good sound system and you can really get a good sound rolling as we increase the intensity. So every day, several times a day, you're going to play this little clip of the thunderstorm or of the fireworks or whatever it is. And you're going to let your dog get used to it. And then each day you're going to bring the volume up a little bit. You're increasing the intensity. So every day you're going to bring the volume up on that. Chickpea, Ollie. You're going to keep increasing and see if this will help. I don't know if it's going to fix the problem. It's certainly not going to make it worse if you just start slow and work your way up. Will it solve it? I don't know, but I would say it's better than immediately running to the vet for some sort of medication. And I'm not against medication when it's appropriate. That's for your vet to decide. You and your vet to decide, I would say. But this is at least something you can try in the meantime. And if you're trying to desensitize your dog to fireworks, June 30th is not the day to do it if you're in Canada and we have July 1st, Canada Day, the next day where they're going to shoot off fireworks. You start this process like a month to 6 weeks in advance. You want to get them used to these sounds so that when the day comes, they're cool with it. Ollie, take me. Let's go this way, guys. Okay, so that's one way. You can find a recording, play the recording, quiet, slightly louder, and just build up over time until your dog is okay with that sound. And then at least, hopefully, when the real sound hits, which is going to be much more intense, they've experienced it enough that they don't panic and they can get through this. All right? Thanks for listening to my little opening rant. You know, I like people to get a feel for who I am in the videos. I think that's really important. I know a lot of YouTube dog trainers are just out there. They want to give you information, which is great. I want to give you information too, but I feel like these videos are also an opportunity that if somebody wanted to train with me, they could watch some of these videos, they could kind of get a feel of my personality, if we would gel together, my overall thought process about dog ownership. You get to see how Chris, my wife, and I are with the dogs and how we integrate the dogs into our life and just all the benefits of a well-trained dog and how that makes it a bit easier to integrate them into more areas of your life. Alright, so I hope you got a little bit out of this. I appreciate you listening to me babble on for a little bit, and then hopefully you took a little bit away at the end there. And until these heat waves are over, hopefully we're all getting out early and keeping our dogs out of the heat, but it is the nature of my job as a dog trainer that I have to go out in the heat. So, we just keep dealing with it. I've done enough videos on how I've worked with the dogs in the heat, from soaking them down with water to building and mounting a generator box on the back of my van to run the air conditioner when the van is parked. So trust me, I have tried everything as a dog owner to ensure that my dogs are safe and cool during these heat events, and I'll continue to try anything I can. If you have a suggestion how to keep your dog cool, put it in the comments. I'd love to know. Maybe I'll add it into my repertoire and something that I recommend to other dog owners. So, until the next video, stay cool, keep your dogs cool, get out there early, and we'll see you later.